You are looking at just some of the plethora of fantasy sports websites that are available these days. It's an industry that is experiencing a huge growth spurt. Now, some people say this is a hobby, critics say it's an obsession, and still others think it's just the tip of the iceberg. We're taking you inside fantasy sports on this edition of It's Your Call. Hello again, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle. We're going to introduce you to some fantasy sports addicts or fans or whatever you want to call them in just a second. But first, I do want to give you an opportunity to tell us what you think about fantasy sports. Are you involved in some way? If so, let me know how. Why does it appeal to you? Email your personal stories to me. And if you've had any kind of problems with it, I want to hear about that as well. The address is lynn@lynndoyle.net. While you're there, check out lynndoyle.net and tell me what you think. I'm going to go back to Brian here for a second because you said something during the break that really caught my attention, and that was you've been playing for 20 years. I thought this was a brand new thing.
Yeah, and I've only won one championship too, so that's the worst part about it. One in 20. I'm like, at least it's one more than the Eagles right now. But I'll tell you that 20 years is something that the game evolves as well. I mean, when we first started, this was all done on paper. We didn't have the computers. When we first started, we had to supply a stat service. We used to go through the Daily News or the Inquirer. Sorry, John. To go through and add up the points. Now all of a sudden it's a touch of a button. Now you get it on your phone, instant update. Do you know how many guys are at the link right now, or women are at the link right now, just updating their fantasy scores by the second on their telephones?
Don't you find that there's something to be wrong with that? Yeah, like aren't there enough things out there, real sports to be watching that you don't have to be involved in the fantasy?
Well, again, I think it goes back to what John had said earlier. It gets you involved in the game, and you think about just week one, you think about the slate of games, and it goes back to me, Cleveland and Tampa Bay. Why else would I be watching the Cleveland Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if A, I didn't have $25 on the game, or B, I didn't have the starting running back on each team? It makes it a viable entertainment, and that's what the NFL has crafted here.
Okay, and I should point out, as I said earlier, Gonzo, that we've talked about football in this first segment, and we're going to talk more about other sports, but it actually does go across the board, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You could play all year long, really, in all kinds of different sports, from basketball to baseball, hockey. There's NASCAR, boxing, as we've learned. But I think what it is, when we were talking about why people get involved, it's pride. You said, does it border on an obsession? Yeah, it does. And can it cause problems? Yeah, it can, because it can affect your mood.
Hey, listen, I know how women are when they're saying, get out from in front of the TV set. Now you're on your phone and everything else. So you tell me if it's a problem. Listen, I want to introduce you to a couple of guys who are really into this. DJ White and Tommy Rotuno are self-described fantasy sports addicts, and hopefully they're going to help me shed some light into their so-called obsession. Great to have you guys here. DJ, good to have you with us. Okay, so you're really into this, right?
Yeah, it's pretty addicting, and I actually just got in trouble at work for checking my scores and making adjustments at the last minute, so you can get caught up into it like that seriously. Why
is it so appealing to you?
Well, like they said earlier, it goes back to being a kid, and it's also about being competitive. A lot of us have jobs and we're not in the athletic sports. We can't participate, as we get older, can't do the same thing. So it gives you an opportunity to have that competitive rivalry with your close friends, as opposed to actually being out there on the field and doing it yourself.
Tommy, if someone says that you're obsessed, you're a fanatic when it comes to fantasy sports, do you find yourself offended by that, or do you take a step back and say, yeah, that pretty much describes me?
If it was coming from a female, I would be insulted. If it came from my buddies, I'd say game on.
Okay. So you don't worry about what I have to say here, because I think this is nuts, okay? It's like you guys have enough to do out there with all the sports that are available. But do you agree with DJ that it does kind of take you back to your childhood? It gives you an opportunity to kind of bond with, with the fellow guys? And that
Absolutely. The thing I find most attractive about it is it puts a different spin on it. It becomes conflicting, however, if your quarterback is David Gerard this weekend and you're an Eagles fan. Now, do you want your fantasy team to do well, or would you rather the Eagles win? So there are times where it becomes conflicting, but at the end of the day, it's great fun. I have more fun in my grudge league than I do in my money league. So.
What's a grudge league and what's a money league?
Well, a money league is where, as John said earlier, you put up money for an entry fee, and then you get in, and at the end of the season, whoever wins takes the pot, or however you set it up. Okay. A grudge league is a league I have with my brother and a lot of our close friends, and at the end of the year, winner has bragging rights.
You guys are all about the bragging rights. Have you noticed this? I mean, is this a macho thing? And I don't mean to, to demean the men, but I mean, is it the bragging rights and the pride in your sports?
It definitely is. The thing is, men, we have a habit of wanting to know more about sports than the next man. So in conversation, there's only so much arguing you can do, but if you're in control of your fantasy team, then it turns into bragging rights. I made a decision better than you made a decision.
Pride is a powerful motivator.
And I love the fact, too, that Gonzo and I are both on the radio, too. So we talk to all the fans, and they expect us to know sometimes a little more than the rest. And I'll tell you, I've won one championship in 20 years, so it's really, really tough. But I'll go back to what he had said. It's, you know, it's a pride thing. You want to be better than your buddy. You want to hold that grudge. You want to hold that one up on that guy.
Well, you know what? I put the question on Facebook, and I'm checking my my laptop here, and I said, can someone please explain the reason why fantasy sports are so popular? You should see I'm getting inundated with these responses. But one that's actually funny to me is they have a couple of, you know, comical ones, but it says some because guys never grow up, and some say that it's because it gives them a chance to bond with their friends, and a lot of the guys are saying that it's something they do with their sons, like it gives them common ground when maybe and elsewhere in their lives they don't have that common ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, my sons are so young, but I could see that, like my brother, like we're talking about, you know, the sibling rivalry over and over again, and again, going back and forth. I mean, sometimes the money becomes secondary. You just want that title. You want to win sometimes. And again, I go back to the draft. The draft is the best night of the year, isn't it, guys?
It's a great point, and especially with the draft, with the league in general, but specifically with the draft, what it really comes down to is it's good fun. It's entertainment. You don't have to, rather than going out to a movie or a bar or spending all this money, yeah, there might be an entry fee for the league, but ultimately, it's a pretty cheap way to have a good time.
Wow, hadn't thought about it like that. Tell me what you think. If you want to join in, you can go ahead and email me right now at lynn@lynndoyle.net. Now, we did solicit some callers, and we're going to share some of those thoughts with you now. Let's go to the telephone lines and speak with Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good here. What about there? Is your fantasy team doing well?
I've got a few fantasy teams. They're all 2-0 right now, so I'm doing well.
Okay, so tell me, tell me about the way that you got involved. What drew you to fantasy sports?
For me, it comes down to I just can't get enough of football, so it's a way for me to keep up on players for teams I wouldn't normally follow and keep up on stats. And, you know, I listen to, like, all the podcasts I can download on my iPhone when I'm driving and stuff like that.
How do you have time to do anything else there, Eric?
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said, how do you have time to do anything else?
Unfortunately, it creeps into some of my other responsibilities. Like, for example, I should probably be at my desk working right now.
Well, listen, I think you could probably get away with telling them you were on It's Your Call. I'm not sure about checking the scores. Okay, so does it ever cause you a problem?
Oh, no, it never causes me a problem. Maybe with the girlfriend, but she helps me or tries to help me out on one of my teams. So,
you know,
yeah.
I learned this with NASCAR. It's better to just go ahead and try to join in and learn more about it, because if you fight it, you're just going to lose. Okay. Eric, thanks so much for your call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. By the way, I wanted to just mention I co-own a Philly-based clothing company, shirtsandbulks.com, and we sell clothing at wholesale prices, and we get a lot of people buying for, like, sporting events and draft parties and stuff.
And this part of the show
check it out.
Brought to you by our sponsor. Thank you. Now, talk about money. Send me a little money. You can say that every week. Okay, I got to take a quick break. But when we come back, we'll talk more about fantasy sports, answer some of your questions, and take you more inside this very intriguing phenomenon. Stay with us.